Hey, folks, we're back for another episode of the Entrepreneur Podcast. In today's episode, we got to learn a lot about a gentleman that's lived several different lives, from door-to-door salesman to business coach to investment portfolio, TED Talk speaker, ultra runner, and a dad. And he's been through ups and downs and valleys, and he talked about it. He went deep into it. And I can tell you, you're going to be pleasantly surprised about the mindset of this young man. And he's just been amazing at what he's done thus far. So hope you enjoy it. Please meet Mr. Daniel Burke Aguero.
Thank you guys for making the time. Yeah, this is going to be super cool. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So what I want to do with you, because you got so many different things, I felt like we would go through some seasons of life. And I guess of all those seasons that we're going to talk about, I guess it's great to start off with who is Daniel? Tell us a little bit more about you.
For sure, man. So, yeah, I was talking with a friend about this the other day, like who am I? And I feel like I'm a person who has worn a lot of hats, right? You use the term seasons. I think every entrepreneur has a lot of different hats that they wear. For me, some of those hats that I'm most proud of, right? Being a dad, being a business owner, I'm a leaver, I'm a athlete, I'm all of these things, right? But I think at the end of the day, like, I'm somebody who I try to make an impact on the world by helping people and living my life to the best of my abilities and hopefully inspiring others to do the same. I think that's really the core of it, is no matter what the season has been, it's always been really important to me to try and do my best and try and help others do their best as well and have fun doing it.
And you've done a great job, man. I appreciate it. I watch you on social media, see all the things you're doing, and it just seems like everything you touch turns to gold. I will talk about how you coach me through some things when we get to coaching as a business coach. And I know you've had some definite impacts on people's lives as you start to talk about things, and you're doing it. You're definitely doing it.
Appreciate that.
But I like to start talking about the 6 summers that you spent door knocking. And
Sure,
most people can't
yeah.
even last 10 doors, but you spent 6 summers door knocking. In that season, what did that teach you?
Yeah, man. So that's how I got my start in sales. So I was a 18-year-old kid. I was a freshman at the University of Missouri, and one of my friends, the best man at my wedding now, good buddy of mine, a guy named Will, he told me about this crazy thing he did during the summers. At the time, I had no clue what it was going to be, but I signed up for it, and I ended up actually paying my way through school with that. So I sold essentially modern day encyclopedias door to door, 80 hours a week, straight commission, the whole summer. 6 summers in a row. I think I knocked on over like 25,000 doors before I was 24. Learned a lot, man. Yeah. I learned a lot. But I had a lot of fun doing it. And I think what was really cool about that season that I've now looked back on over many different years and many other different lenses, but I always come back to some of the principles that we learned on the book field, is what we called it. I think one of the biggest things that I pulled out of that was just the understanding that I can do anything I set my mind to if I believe it and I am consistent with the effort. Like if I just try, if I just don't stop trying, I'll probably eventually see some level of success at something.
So let me ask you this then. If during those summers, I mean, you're a go-getter and you're one of those folks that maybe people think that you don't think you can do it, right? Did you ever have a moment during those summers where you say, "Hey, this is hard. I can't do this."
Yeah.
And if you did, like what pushed you forward?
Man, yeah. So funny because like I look back, my first summer, I'm an 18-year-old kid. I have this vivid memory, right? I have this vivid memory. I'm in New Haven, Connecticut. Is where I was working, or maybe it was Bristol, but I'm somewhere in Connecticut. I don't really remember. And I remember we used to try and play these little games or these things to lighten the mood and take your mind off the fact that you're knocking on doors 80 hours a week, right? Little things to try and distract the mind. One of the things that a friend had recommended who was doing it was just to wear ridiculous clothes for the day. So I've got a bright pink polo on. I've got plaid shorts, mismatched socks, 2 different pairs of shoes. I just look like a clown, right? I'm trying to not take myself too seriously. But
Yeah.
internally, this is like hard and scary and I don't like this and what am I doing out here, right?
Okay.
But I'm trying to be cool and like play the game, do it, right? So I remember I'm knocking on this door and I was just having a tough day, like had a lot of doors slammed in my face, people telling me like to pound sand, like what are you doing out here, right? Like I think at that point I had the cops called on me once or twice for soliciting and like I had a permit, I was legally allowed to be doing it, but I'm just like internally
Yeah.
I'm trying to be cool. I'm trying to be the cool guy, right? So I remember I knock on this door and I don't even remember what they said. I went through my approach, something like, "Hey, I'm the one talking to all the families here, about this education thing." And he just gave me the look of just like, "What are you doing?" And I don't even know what he said, but something to the extent of you should probably just go home and like get a real job because what are you doing out here looking like that? Specifically, he was like, wearing this. What are you doing? And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I just cried in my car for like 15 minutes. And I think what's cool about that story looking back on it was just like, I just let it out. I let it out. For a couple minutes, I was like, oh, okay. I'm still here. I'm okay. Like, he didn't actually do anything to me. Like, life is continuing on. Right. And,
Yeah.
I don't know, I said some affirmations like, I don't know, if it is to be, it's up to me. Today's gonna be a great day. I don't know. I said something and I just
Mhm.
went back to work, right? Oh, no, that's what it was. I had a timer on my watch that went off every 15 minutes because that's something they taught us to do was like you hear the beeping and you know, like, okay, on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing.
Okay.
And so like I was crying, I let it out, the watch goes off, and it was just this moment of like, okay, just keep trying, right? Like
Yeah.
life isn't over. And I think that is something that through many different seasons of things going well and things not going well. I've had a lot of things not go to plan. A lot of things go sideways. A lot of decisions I've made in other business ventures where I'm just like, what have I done? Where it's a continued reminder of kind of that moment of like, no
Yeah.
matter how low you get or how
For
low you
sure.
feel, like take a step back, take a breather, reset, and just try. Right. Like I don't think I had a crazy day where like I made a bunch of money that day. It was just like, it was just a normal day. But like I kept going and the days compounded and it eventually worked.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So I've heard a few stories similar, and I like them a lot because it's like you're cutting your teeth in one of the most challenging aspects of sales. So I have to ask, in what ways did starting out as a door knocker influence the salesperson that Daniel is today?
Yeah. I don't want to say I'm not afraid to talk to anyone,
Huh?
but I think just there is an element of I guess I'll even go back to like leaving the book field, like that part, not even today, because I think it compounds over time, but just from the books, when I left, I had a innate belief that people are people. Because I've been in homes of, multi-million dollar people who were broke as a joke. And I've been in trailers in the middle of nowhere, rural areas where like they've worked really hard, they have what they need, and like they're a happy family. I've seen good people, I've seen bad people, I've seen every sort of human being there is out there, I feel like. And so I think that lowered fear of just initiating the conversation, I think has really helped the rest of the career. Cause it's just like, it's easy to talk to people because people are people. And
That's
like,
right.
doesn't matter what their title or what their status or whoever, it's like, they're just human beings. And I think that's really helped everything for sure. And that definitely came from talking to so many people over and over and over and getting rejected and like
Mhm.
meeting some awesome people in the process.
Yeah. Amazing. Yes.
Which is amazing, man. So, because the saying is that 97% of people work for 3% that didn't quit. And I saw that on some banners or something like that sometime, and it's so true. Just to push through things, and the way you've done that. I guess the next season of your life, and I know there's many, but you were a coach, a business coach,
Yep.
and I can speak firsthand to that. You were my business coach, got me through a plateau in my business, personally with my company here, and we pushed through some things, and I really credit that to you
Appreciate that.
for the mindset you gave me, for the things that you really the pillars that you put down, and I feel like that was a big push in my life. And people, and this is the other thing, Daniel, how old are you?
I'm currently 36.
He froze.
He
Yeah,
froze.
had to think about that. Yeah.
36. And you were
Younger than
coaching me
you.
when you were
Can we
about,
say that? I'm younger than you.
yeah, younger than me. You were
Yes.
coaching me, you was about 33, I believe, or 32,
Yep.
33
30.
years old.
Yeah.
And,
32,
I
33.
was in my 50s at the time, right? So, and I would say that to say that you were on point. Even at 32, 33 years old, the things that you were really talking about were really gonna push me through what I had to do, and I needed that. So I wanna say thank you to that.
Appreciate
Now,
you.
you have 150 different business owners that you've coached. So after seeing the behind the scenes of businesses and the patterns of people, what did you take from that? Even, I guess there's two part. First, how did you get into coaching? And then secondly, tell us about after doing that, what does that do for you and all those things with that for us being a coach and how it really developed.
Yeah. Yeah. So I spent 6 years knocking on doors with the Southwestern family of companies. So the specific group that I was with, technically, it's the oldest direct sales company in the country. So Southwestern's been around since 1868. Started selling Bibles after the Civil War, not door to door. I did that through college. Did a little bit afterwards. Recruited, trained, built teams, and then I went out of the family companies, went into the corporate world, did some business development, fundraising, spent some time in a couple of Fortune 500 companies. And the transition back to Southwestern, which is actually the coaching arm of what I was involved with, I got back into the coaching space, was actually because of my son, because of Jonah. So I remember at the time I was working with a big Fortune 500 company. I was like on their sales side, and I remember Jonah, our son, was about to be born. And I remember talking to some of the other parents kind of in our group about what that season of life looked like. Of, hey, when your kid was born, how much time did you take off? What's this new season look like? I don't know. I've never had a kid before. And I remember every single one of them said, well, my kid was born that morning. I was back in the office that afternoon. Kid was born that morning. I was back in the office later that day, the next day. And it just is what it is. It was what it was. That was the expected, like, we're here to grind and get things done. And frankly, that's not what I had envisioned for my life as a dad or for the season that we were about to enter into. And so part of me getting into the coaching space was actually coming from a place of like, I don't even know what I'm going to do, but it's not going to be this, right? Because I got to have some flexibility. I got some freedom. Like I'm going to slow down and I want to spend time with my kids. So that was where it started. And I think this is a really interesting, I think I've even told you this story about a buddy of mine when it comes to recruiting. Anthony Merkel was my sales manager when I sold books door to door. Anthony left and then went into the coaching space entire time that I was not tired, I was doing my other thing. Anthony was so good about leaving the door open for me. He was so good about saying, hey, listen, man, I know you're doing your thing over there, but if you ever even consider wanting to come and learn about this whole coaching thing that we're doing over here, like I'd love just to have a conversation with you about it. I think you do great. It'd be so fun. You'd be so good at it. But again, man, all your thing, you're good, you're happy, but I'd love to get the band back together, but hey, again, no pressure, no big deal. It's like he was so good about just like leaving the door open, leaving the breadcrumbs, but never like recruiting me. So that when the moment came up and I was like, hey, you know what? Man, Anthony's always talked about this thing. It sounds really cool. Like, I'd love to at least learn about it. Eventually, that's actually where I ended up landing. So I came back and I was really blessed there to be surrounded by a lot of really good people who knew a lot about what they were doing. It was through some of those relationships that I got put into different circles. I can even trace back, I do it some other time, but it's interesting. It's like a series of like 18 to 20 different relationships that made introductions to other people was actually how I ended up meeting you guys, was through this person who introduced me to this person who introduced me to that person. It's a cool series of just doing the right thing for the right reasons, never being afraid to talk to other people and ask for help, continuing to open the door and see where it goes.
Yeah. So I got you make me think of some things about the succession of meeting people and
Hmm.
all of the leaders that you've been involved with after seeing the behind the scenes of the
Hmm.
businesses.
Mhm.
and the leaders, what patterns start to become like obvious to you from, if you took the 30,000 foot and looked at everybody's in business, and what are the patterns that you start seeing that has been successful for people? I think, when you see that, you can probably have a huge, huge advantage point of like, hey, this is probably the keystones of success. What is that?
Yeah. I realize I think you asked that question. I don't think I answered it a second ago. So
Right.
thank
It's
you for
okay. I'm bringing
answering.
it back. I'm bringing it back.
Went sideways. Yeah, man. I think that there's so many different angles to it. There's a Abraham Lincoln quote. Maybe it's not even Abraham Lincoln, but for some reason I have it branded in my brain that it is. But it's just that what is it? Just luck is just circumstance plus preparation or something like that. So there's so many factors to success that I think it's hard to pinpoint just one. But consistently, the leaders that not only saw a lot of success that I had the privilege of working with, but that I respected and appreciated and wanted to continue to maintain relationships with and be in business with, like, because I think there's also a distinction there. I think you can be really successful in business by working hard, by knowing your numbers, which I think you have to do either way. Um, but by also not really being a good person and like just doing it all for money. I think there's a lot of people who've seen a level of success by just going for it, not really caring who gets hurt in the process, right? Just taking what they want out of life. So I think to an extent, like you have to want to fight for whatever you're going for, and you have to be hungry, and you have to do the work, and you have to show up, and you have to. But then the leaders who excel beyond that level, like my favorite ones, were people who genuinely care about others and who want to do the right thing for the right reasons, even if it means making a little less, right? Who lead with integrity, transparency, honesty, who not necessarily put people over profit, but who are intentional about putting the person first and ensuring that they're a profitable company, right? I think the best leaders I've ever met, they believe in whatever they're doing. They believe in the vehicle, the opportunity for themselves, for their company, for the people that they impact, and for their team members that they bring on. I think so much of actually leadership development is just a transference of belief. Because if you can help somebody else believe that they're capable of what you think they're capable of, if you can pull that belief out to where they can start believing it themselves, I mean, it's an unlimited opportunity, right? Of what we can do to help people.
And it's a blessing to be able to do that. It's a talent, it's a skill to be able to do it. Not everybody has that ability to transfer into someone else to make
Hmm.
them really believe that they're better than what they're doing and lead them in that path. So that is instrumental in the whole process of leadership.
Well, I can't help but believe. I think one of the things about you guys, not to take you off the rails, but I feel like you guys specifically, you two, learned a lot about that in your time in service, and so like there's a natural transference now to what you're doing now. Of correct me if I'm wrong. So
No,
much of
you're
that
right.
before was, hey, I'm pulling the best out of people,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
now you're still just pulling the best out. It's just a different vehicle.
Yeah,
Hmm.
you're right. I
I
believe
agree.
that what we've experienced has made us be able to transfer this in a different way.
Hmm.
It's all the same in some way, shape, or form. So I got another question then. So you would be able to see in the same successes of all of these people that you coach while coaching, 150 leaders that you've coached. I guess let's go opposite that. What do you think leaders struggle with privately the most?
Imposter syndrome, I think, would be if there's just one.
Yeah.
If there's
Oh,
just one.
yes. Yeah.
But never feeling good enough, never feeling like you've made it, never feeling like you
Yes.
deserve to be in the room that you're in. Um, I think there's definitely had I can think of a couple specific who just that was not their issue at all, and they thought that they were supposed to be there, and that's great. But I think again, if I were to say one blanket statement, it's like I think it's really hard sometimes for successful people to own their success in a humble way of
Mm.
saying
Yeah.
like I did play a part in getting here. Again, not up to
Yeah.
me, if we're thinking like bigger picture, higher power stuff, but also like it is like like I'm proud of my journey. I'm proud of the work I've done. I have something to contribute here. I think that's hard for some people.
Mm.
Yeah, especially if you keep leveling up. Like there's always somebody bigger and better. Every room I've always been in, I've never been the biggest guy in a room, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I remember this is very specific version of this, but in my new venture, which I'm sure we'll get here, there was an opportunity for me to be in a room very early in the journey where I think for context, I think I had sold 3, maybe 4 houses ever at that point. And I'm in a room with only 7 and 8 figure operators who, they're doing millions of dollars of profit a year doing the
Wow.
exact same thing that I'm doing. And I've only done like 4 at that point. And,
Wow.
you
That's
know,
what it's about, being in the room with people that's smarter, and I leave this word in quotations, better,
mhm,
at least better at that time than what you're doing. That is
right.
the smart man doing that, right? That's
Yeah, that's
exactly
it,
where
man.
you wanna be at.
Yeah, that's
There's
it,
no
man.
other
And
better way to elevate than be in a room with people that's smarter than you, and if
yeah.
you gotta find those rooms.
Yeah. Well, and then again, like those biggest guy in the room is a small fish in the next room, right? So it's
Mhm.
like just to
Mhm.
believe that I'm worthy of being in the room. I'm allowed to be here. I'm supposed to be here. Like I am inherently a worthy person standing alongside someone who's maybe achieved more. I think that there's an element there of like ego and a whole bunch of other stuff. But if there's the one thing, I think that's consistently the underlying thing for a lot of people is just
Yeah,
not feeling
you're right
worthy.
about that. A lot of times people just don't realize that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. You might call it something else, but I think that's a lot of times what it is.
It is. I know
Man,
Marquez has done some coaching in his time. I know he has some things he wanted to unpack with that for sure.
no, yeah, there were 2 things you said just then that I keyed in on. The first one was imposter syndrome, and I think let me know if you feel the same way, but I think most people, if not all people that are attempting to do something great will experience imposter syndrome in some kind of way. What are some things that, maybe you've done or maybe you've coached others to do to kind of deal with that inevitable mindset, that belief about yourself?
I will talk about something that I'm currently doing
Mhm,
because I'm currently navigating and a little bit of it myself, right? So in my
mhm,
new venture and some of the rooms I'm in and some of the things I'm involved with, one thing that's helped me, and to your point, I've worked a lot of worked a lot over the years with others on it, is just grounding myself. Grounding
mhm,
myself on not necessarily my accomplishments, but
mhm.
grounding myself on who I am as a person.
Okay.
So actually detaching from the thing
Yes.
that's probably giving me some imposter syndrome right now.
Mhm.
So detaching from the title, the accolade, the quote unquote success that I'm feeling weird about and reattaching, grounding myself with just like at the end of the day, like I'm still me. No matter what happens to me in the world, like I am still a person who cares.
Yes.
I'm still a good
Yes.
human. Right?
Yes.
Like, doesn't matter about any of this other achievement stuff because at the end of the day, like, I'm proud to be me. So I think maybe that's another thing is anchoring into things that you can control, you know,
Mhm. Mhm.
whether that's
Yes.
journaling, reading, eating right, working
One of
out.
the things.
That's
Go ahead.
yes, that's good. And, one more thing, you mentioned ego. So if I ask like 100, like 10 different people what their definition of ego or strong ego meant, I would probably get uh 50-50 contrasting different answers to that question. So in being a leader, building a business, how important do you think it is to have a what's your definition of strong ego and how important do you think it is to have a strong ego?
Ooh, this is a good one,
I
Martez.
know, Daniel.
This is a good one. I think, man, yeah, it's crazy because it's like I think it's almost like this bell curve, right? Where I think there are some really successful businesses where I can think of where they built it with zero ego because
Uh-huh.
they just want to do their thing, they just want to help, right? And like that's kind of one end of the bell curve. Yeah, the
Mhm.
other end of the bell curve where you have people who it is the reason they're building the business is to feed their ego. Like
Yes.
that's it. It doesn't matter if it's this business or that business. The business itself doesn't matter because at the end of the day, whatever it is, it's just feeding their ego. And then I think like the middle spot is like you have to have some element of I don't know if it is ego or as much as I would use maybe the word just belief in whatever I'm doing. Like I have to believe that like it can happen and that like I can help bring it about. So you have to have some ego, belief, hubris that you're doing this thing that maybe others don't think you can, but you got to be careful to not have too much, but you still got to have some of it. But I don't know. I think that's the difference. I forget what man, there's a thought on that, but just like I've talked to people about this before where it's like the artist who's really good at what they do, but doesn't want to share it with anybody. Nobody knows who that artist is. They could be the best artist in the world, but like, you know, and that's okay. But if you want to build something, people have to know who you are or what you're doing. So that's a weird balance.
Like and trust you all the time. So I got another question for you here. Tell us a little bit about your TED Talk, your experience with the TED Talk, and how did that come about? That seems to be something that, wow, you talking about you're a TED Talk speaker. Unpack that for us.
Yeah, for sure, man. There's a name in El Paso specifically. You might know him, but Ruben Alvarez.
Yes.
That name rings a bell. But,
Yes.
I was actually having lunch, I think, with Ruben one time that I was in town in El Paso. Somehow that came up. And I'd mentioned that was like a dream. That was something I wanted to eventually one day do. And he just started poking the bear, man. He just started being like, well, then why don't you just go do it? I'm like, well, I mean, like I'll do it in the future. I'll do it when I'm qualified, when I'm ready. I'll do it when I'm back to imposter syndrome stuff, right? Of like, I'll do it eventually when I've earned it. I mean, he just kept poking the bear, man. He was like, you have a story today. You have a message today. I'm like, well, I'm just going to say the same thing that's already been said. He's like, precisely, but you're saying it in your words, your way. Like, it's your story. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if that's important to you, you should go do it. And it's so funny because like, I didn't pay Ruben for that. He wasn't a client. I wasn't a client of his. I don't even know how we ended up having lunch together or how even this came up. But he started poking the bear, and I started thinking about it. I was like, well, yeah, I do want to do that. And so, again, it's like one of those things where if you believe it and you start, I don't know if I've shared this with you, but the verse like knock and the door will be opened,
Mm-hmm.
right? Seek and you shall find. It's not pull up to the house and text and let them know you're there.
I like it. I like it.
You got to knock.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I started researching and looking it up, and I was like, well, I really like to do one in the next couple months. I really like to do one that I can do in person. I'd really like to do one that kind of fits this criteria, and just you can go to the website and search for different ones that are open, and you can apply. And again, just this cool series of doors that just kept opening. Turns out there was one like 4 hours from my house in like I think it was like 3 months or something from that date. Turns out they had dropped the ball on getting their speakers lined up. And so literally the day that I was looking it up and I messaged the guy on LinkedIn, he's like, dude, this is crazy. I totally forgot about this. We just opened up applications today. I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
And again, just like things just kept working. And I ended up working with a speaker coach for a bit and ended up putting together a presentation I was really proud of, and practiced it. And um, yeah, I felt really good about it. The whole core of it, I think, was building on a lot of the work that I had been doing with coaching clients at the time.
Yeah.
Was around this idea of unlocking your potential. Right, it's a lot easier when you can connect your purpose to your present. Right, when no matter what you're doing in your life, when you can tie the significance of what you're doing long term, or what you believe in, or what matters most to you, to that moment that you're in, I think it's just life carries a lot more weight and significance and meaning, and the little things matter a lot more, and you're more likely to do the little things when they matter. So I think it's this cool melting pot of opportunity, and I mean, I laugh about it now because I was proud of it. I'm glad I did it, but I watch it now a couple years later. I'm like, man, I could have done so much better. Like, oh, we didn't promote it, this and that. I'm like, it's only got this many views. It's like I got to do another one. I don't know, but it was cool. I was really glad I did it, and yeah, it's a cool thing to talk about.
Well, I watched it and
Yeah, I did too.
I enjoyed it. Really,
Yeah,
you did a great job. Great job. I was
thank
really impressed. I was like, that's my coach. There he goes. That's my
thank you,
coach.
So
thank you.
Gotcha.
there's a quote. I think it's John Maxwell. I don't know, but it says if your current self at any point in your life can't look back at your previous self and say what an idiot I was, that means you're
Yeah,
not growing.
right,
Right.
100%. Yeah, I love that, man. So true though.
So in relation to Trailhead, again, I'm going to kind of go in your intake. One of the things that's really stood out to me, and I kind of really liked it. You said when you started Trailhead, excuse me,
Hmm.
money. When did you realize that? When did you realize that? That's one of the things you had wrote there, and I was like, okay, when did you
Yeah.
realize that?
That's why I did what I did.
Yeah.
Probably about a year later.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it all kind of
And
fell apart. And I was like, what am I doing?
okay. Well, can you speak to that a little bit? Because I was really
Yeah.
interested in that statement,
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man.
and
So and again, just kind of on the heels of everything happening in life, I've been doing a lot of reflection lately, right? Trying to figure out life, right? And I look back on the season. I spent, almost 6 years with the coaching division, right? And really, I'm close to like 10 years in total now of like working with leaders and entrepreneurs in a coaching capacity, but about 6 years there, that little pocket. And when I left, I had, I guess, like on paper, a really cool life, right? Like I was working a decent amount, but nothing crazy. I had a lot of flexibility, a lot of consistency, very consistent income, doing something I loved, I felt, really good about. But at the time, I couldn't really put my finger on it until later. There was a gap between where I was financially and what I believed I wanted out of life, and I couldn't visualize how to close the gap in the vehicle that I was in. So in the vehicle I was in, I was saying, "Man, there's a ceiling here. I'm at the ceiling. I can't wrap my brain around going from here to here." And the interesting thing, because I look back on this, it's like the more I thought about needing to be here instead of being grateful for being here, the more I focused on that gap, the heavier it became.
Hmm.
The more I focused on the gap of like, man, well, I need this to be happy to achieve my goals, to this, to this, to this. And I'm not there, and I'm not there, and I'm not there. It's like, well, then the more and more and more important it became for me to find a way to get there. And then there's a whole crazy story in itself. This opportunity comes around, all this stuff. I see an opportunity where I can, at least it seems like, make a crap ton of money very quickly with not say little effort, but like it seems like it's just shooting fish in a barrel. And it seems like, again, just this, oh, it's this perfect thing that the doors keep opening and lining up. And so, I mean, I put all the chips on black, spun the dice, lost, put them all on black again, lost again, put them all on black a third time, and broke even, and then have kind of been limping along ever since. But it was rough there for a bit, man. I mean, we're not out of the woods yet either, but just it's interesting to look back now on where we are today and realize the whole reason I'm even in this space at first was because of money, because I wanted to make more money. Now I kind of found the rhythm, right? Where it's like, hey, we can doing a good thing for the right reasons to help a lot of people. I still believe in like the opportunity to create change in an unregulated marketplace. Like there's still some really cool stuff that I have kind of landed on and centered to, yeah, I think I am going to do this. But it's no longer driven by the desire to just make a lot of money fast, because I think the core of it was I was trying to use money to solve the whole inside here. I was like, well, when I make this money, then I'll be happy. And turns out, doesn't matter how much money you make, you still got to do the work on the inside.
Yeah, very
all
good.
right.
Yeah, getting
And
super
so
philosophical. Go for it.
I like that, Daniel. It's good stuff, man. Yes.
so Trailhead, what you actually do, you unpack what it is that the business is about, the wholesaling partner, stuff like that, and because I got a couple questions in that. Because I want people to know how you do things. And so I do have a few questions about what it is that you do.
Sure. Yeah. So started Trailhead initially as just a wholesale real estate company, direct to seller, finding opportunities and assigning them to investors. Quickly realized between the model, the industry, the opportunity, the clients we were serving, the marketing we were getting, the emergence of AI, just kind of a whole bunch of stuff happening really fast. We've kind of adjusted our sweet spot now. Over the course of the last year and a half, 2 years, we've helped a little over 100 families nationwide. We operate nationwide, help sellers who are in situations. We help to solve those problems where a traditional listing is not the solution. That could mean anything, but more often than not, what it means is we get really creative on how to do the right thing for the right reasons, how to put people first, how to step into the mess that people are dealing with, and help provide an opportunity where no one else is willing to go. Practically, that's looked like us advancing funds for people to move, covering repair costs, things like that. Like I bought a car off of Facebook Marketplace for somebody in Oregon. I mean, it's just like all sorts of crazy stuff that we've had to do, but like at the core of it is like we do what we do because we believe that by helping that person, we're doing a good thing and we're making money in the process. Like it's very transparent. Um,
And just so there's some
mhm,
context to it,
sure.
I think in the last 2 years, you've done over 18 million in transactions thus far in 2
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
crazy. That's
In
insane.
an industry I've never been in.
Right, right.
But,
Yeah.
again, I think a lot of that credit comes to the team. And again, back to some stuff that we talked about day one of, if I can put the right people in the right seats, if I can surround myself with good people, if I can cast a vision big enough that they can see the achievement of their goals within my bigger vision, we can't help but succeed, right? As
And
long
you
as we,
mentioned, I guess you mentioned like, some chaos, some sleepless nights and some things you bet on black and all this other
yeah,
stuff. But
yeah.
and it seems like you've learned some lessons through there. So has that success cost you anything personally or anything you want to talk about in certain as the transition has gone along?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and this is, part of, I think, just navigating. I think the last couple months, I've really been working on detaching. So, Martez, back to some of what we talked about before, detaching from a specific outcome or goal or timeline, even, right? When I first, well, I'll give you a little bit more context. When I first started, in a matter of 90 days, I quit my job, liquidated our entire savings, took out multiple six figures of high interest credit card debt because I thought I was going to be made whole within 90 days. I was never made whole. And now I have no money, lots of bills, and no clue what I'm doing. And then that specific reason I did all that, where I thought I was going to be made whole, also turned into multiple lawsuits. And so now I'm in the middle of lawsuits and I have no money and I have no way to make money. And I'm so, and I think a lot of the stress the first year was because I was so focused on the pit that I was in. I was so focused on how far away I was from where I wanted to be. I was so focused on I have to have this solved in the next 6 months, 90 days, 12 months. Like I have to have this solved because if I don't have it solved, then I'm not worthy as a husband, as a father, as a business owner. Then if I don't have this solved, then my ego, right, is saying like I'm not it. And I think a lot of the last very recent shift has been in letting go of some of that and saying, man, it might take a bit for us to get to where I want to be. It might take a bit for us to get out of the situation, but like I'm okay with that because I'm willing to do the work and I'm willing to endure. I'm willing to keep the long-term goal in mind. Yeah, so I've gained a lot of weight, Ben, to your question. What have I
What?
lost? Doesn't look like it, but I've gained, I've now lost some of it, but yeah, I gained like 25, 30 pounds, which for a tall, skinny guy, like it's a lot, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
All right,
mean,
so
just,
I guess I asked the
yeah.
question, is the ultra running still happening?
Yes and no, right? So, um, yeah, so it's a big chapter. I'm starting to get back into it,
Okay.
but yeah, this past April I did an event. It was my 6th year doing the event. I ran 50 miles in that event, and between that event and the year before, when I did the event the year before, over the course of that entire year, I've probably ran less than 50 miles. Is it still happening? Yes. Is it as good as it was before? No. But again, it's like it's a season. And the season was for a season, like I wasn't running, I was just lifting and I was trying to deal with my stress with caffeine and heavy weights, And now like I'm trying to detach and slow down and like have a more holistic, healthy approach to navigating managing stress. So a big part of that for me is running and doing ultra events. And so I'm trying to choose which one is next. But my buddy and I just talked about doing the rim to rim to rim next spring, which
What
is
is this?
where
What is this?
the Grand Canyon, you run from one rim of the Grand Canyon
Oh
down and
my
back up
god.
to the other rim, and then you turn around and go back to where you started. And you do that in one day. So it's like 47 miles in one day to the down and up, down and up. So I think that might be the next big one to start training for.
Sweet, man,
Yeah, it's
sweet.
be cool.
Martez, I think Martez is going to join you on that one.
But yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be cool. You're welcome. Let's
I'll let Martez pick up from here. I know he's got a couple things he wanted to unpack with you. This is amazing, man. This is great.
I do.
thank you for
So,
having me.
oh, man, I'm learning. So I want to show you my notes when we finish here. I'm learning so much.
Wow.
So when you talked about you were doing it for the money, and then I think you said something to the effect that you realized that it was going to take longer than you thought.
Mhm.
It reminded me, one of my mentors, someone that I follow, his name is Rich Litvin. Among other things, he co-wrote The Prosperous Coach, but he had a talk and he was referring to his wife, who is a singer and she does so many things. But the talk was how to become an overnight success. And I'm going to jack this part up in 20 years. I don't know how many years, I don't remember, but how to become an overnight success in 20 years. So a lot of times we and others think we can do a certain amount of things in such a short amount of time,
Mhm.
but we're fooling ourselves, but it takes us a while to realize that we're fooling ourselves, that there's an incubation period. Also, when it does happen, the people that see you in that developed state, they think you came that way. Yeah, they don't see the behind the scenes stuff. And so I would imagine, and I know you know this, Daniel, because I would imagine that even for yourself, you learned that there's a ton of behind the scenes stuff, or a ton of under the water, under the surface stuff that you had to go through to be that person. You want to talk about that, please? Or
Yeah, 100%, man. I think to your point, I've always heard we overestimate the amount of stuff we can accomplish in 1 year, and we
there it is.
underestimate the amount of stuff we can accomplish in 5 to 10.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think it's just so interesting, man. You look at this, it's always going to cost more and take longer and be harder than you think. I was talking with a friend about and I'll butcher this too, but it's the valley concept, right? Of like you start with uninformed optimism, right?
Hmm.
Where like it's going to be easy and you don't know any better, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Then you go into uninformed pessimism where you're just
Yeah.
like, it's hard and like it's not going to work and blah, blah, blah. But
Yeah.
you actually go to the valley of despair before you do anything else. Right. And
Uh-huh.
that's the hardest part. That's where most people break because you're like, I've made some decisions and I'm now in a place that I don't ever want to be, didn't expect to be. What have I done?
Yes. Yes.
And eventually you start climbing out because you're like, okay, now you're moving into like informed optimism, right? Where like
Hmm.
you're accepting how hard it's going to be, how long it's going to take. You're like accepting it. So I think for
Hmm.
me, part of that quick slide down into the valley was because I think it's part of how I ended up in the room was I had been in rooms with other people operating a similar business model to what I was doing
Hmm.
who had seen great success. And to your point, I saw them in their arrived state.
Yep.
I didn't see them
Yep.
for the 15, 20 years it took them to get there.
Get there.
Yeah,
Right.
and maybe in the despair moments too. You didn't
Yes.
Yeah,
see him there.
exactly. Right.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I'm like, in
And
those
people
moments of
hide that.
despair.
That's the thing about it. People hide that. They shield that from life, that people
Hmm.
don't see it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So there's always another side to a success story.
Yeah.
That's for sure,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. I've taken a lot of comfort in that because as I start to share some of the valley of despair stuff, right, with other people, I get to hear their story, their version, you know?
Yep.
Do you
I get to
think
realize, yeah.
That's right.
think that high performers they know how to produce? I just think that you're a high performer to me, right? And most high performers just know how to produce. We just go, 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 go. But I think there's a point in time for high performers where they don't really process, and when they do start to process, that takes them to the next level. I don't know
Yeah.
if you agree to that,
Yeah.
but in almost the same way that I look at you, I'm like, okay, well, you're a high performer. You producing. You was in that production mode, but now it seems like you're in that processing mode. Would you say that that's where you at now?
100%. Yeah, it's it's this balance, right? Almost to what we've talked about earlier of I think you can blunt force trauma your way to a certain level of success, right? You can just keep going and just keep stuffing everything down and not deal with it and just. And again, to an extent that's actually I think a good thing to learn how to do, to just keep going And then at a certain point, you plateau or the wheels fall off. And so to get back on the horse, to get to that next level, you got to clear out the stuff. You got to clear out what's actually underneath all of it, what's actually holding you back. Yeah, I think I'm definitely in that I'm going to say I'm coming out of that. Right. Yeah. I mean, for a long time, I think I was there and I don't think I was honest with myself that I was there.
Yeah.
Uh,
And that's why I was thinking, I think you're in that processing mode where you're processing
mhm.
things. And us seasoned guys of us, right?
Mhm.
Me and Martez, we call that wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. No,
Wisdom, right?
I get
Yes,
it.
all right. It's
You're not
okay, man.
wrong.
I love seeing this. I love seeing this. Well, I ask you this then. If we could, maybe some of the closing questions. Well, prior to closing, something that maybe we don't know that you would like to be unpacked about you. Maybe something people don't know. You're like, okay, yeah,
Well, you were just extremely vulnerable and transparent with a lot of things that you shared. So you
yeah.
got to go deeper right now.
Yeah. I'm like, no, no, no,
just
I want to see
just
what we
curious.
got
I
here.
mean, just curious.
No, yeah, no, I know. I'm trying to think. I'm like, I can think of funny things, but not like,
Sure.
yeah, no, I mean, I think, yeah, I think it's interesting. Okay, here's, I guess, maybe where the thoughts are going. So you were talking, Ben, earlier about, and Martez, you said something similar, right? Of like when we see successful people in their arrived state, right? When we don't see what it's taken to get there. We don't see the valley of despair behind the scenes. We see what people are. We see the image that they are choosing to present themselves as,
Hmm.
which I think, especially in the age of social media, it's even more spread out to that effect, right? I think if there's something I could actually encourage people on would be to try and put yourself in rooms where you can have real conversations with real people about these types of things. Because if you're an entrepreneur, it can feel really lonely because you feel like you're the only one who's ever been in that pit of despair. You know, we used to talk about in coaching, like you have to help people feel like they're not a unique snowflake because everybody thinks they're unique, right?
Hmm.
Like I'm the
Hmm.
only one who's ever been in this bad of a situation with this. And it's like, no, you're not, you know?
Yeah.
I remember I was talking to a mentor about our specific financial situation about a year and a half ago. And I was like I was in tears. I was just like, so bad.
Yeah.
Here's the situation. And he hears me out. He's like, yeah, that's a lot. Can I tell you a story? I'm like, sure. And he calmly tells me the story of how in 2008, his version of the same thing, it's just had like 7 more zeros on it.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
you know,
Yeah.
he's
It
like, "Dude,
makes you
you'll be
put things
okay,
in
man."
perspective, though.
Yeah, yeah. He's like, "You'll be okay. You just gotta."
So, folks, we just had Daniel Burke Aguero. Amazing story that we had a great time with him in this podcast. We had some technical difficulties. We lost him towards the end of it. But stay tuned for the next episode of the Entrepreneur Foxhole where myself and Martez, where we keep getting these amazing entrepreneurs on this station. All right. Peace. Talk to you guys later.